All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're breaking down the latest from Pan American Silver, taking a good look at what a year they had in 2025, and more importantly, what their game plan is for 2026. So, just to set the stage here, if you're not familiar with them, Pan American Silver is a real heavyweight in the mining industry. We're talking about a major producer of both silver and gold, with mines all across the Americas. Here's how we're going to walk through it. First, we'll look at their absolutely fantastic 2025 results. Then we'll see what they're predicting for the year ahead, get into the costs, see how they're spending money to grow, and then kind of tie it all together. And what better way to kick things off than hearing it straight from the top? The CEO, Michael Steinman, pretty much says it all right here. 2025 wasn't just a good year. They knocked it out of the park with strong production that really beefed up their cash balance. Okay, so let's dig into that 2025 report card. And honestly, the numbers here really do tell the story. So get this. The big headline number for silver is 22.8 million ounces. Now, it's one thing to hit your target, but this is a huge deal because they completely blew past the high end of what they predicted they'd produce. For a mining company, that's a fantastic result. Now, over on the gold side of things, production was super solid, landing right inside their guidance at 742.2 thousand ounces. And what's really great is that they had a super strong final quarter, which is exactly the kind of momentum you want to see heading into a new year. And all that production, well, it translates into cold, hard cash. Think about this. In just the last 3 months of the year, their cash and investments shot up by $408 million. That's an incredible boost to their bank account, giving them a ton of firepower to invest in the future. And as we'll see, that's exactly the plan. And a huge piece of this success story was the Juanicipio mine. They just bought it in September, and man, it started paying off right out of the gate, adding a whopping 2.5 million ounces of silver. It's already looking like a very, very smart purchase. Okay, so that was 2025, an amazing year. But the big question is, what's next? How do they possibly follow that up in 2026? Well, they're not resting on their laurels, that's for sure. You can see right here, they're aiming for a pretty big jump in silver production, forecasting a move up to somewhere between 25 and 27 million ounces. They're clearly looking to build on that momentum. And for gold, the story here is all about stability. They're planning to stay in that same strong range of 700 to 750,000 ounces. So no big jump, but they're signaling that they can keep that high level of production going, which is great. So where's all this metal actually coming from? This table gives us a nice little breakdown. You can see the two big silver engines are going to be Juanicipio and La Colorada. They're the real powerhouses. And for gold, you're looking at Jacobina and Shahuindo to do most of the heavy lifting. But, producing a ton of metal is great, but it's not the whole story, right? You've got to know what it costs to get it out of the ground to really understand the business. So before we get to the numbers, let's just quickly touch on a key term, all-in sustaining costs, or AISC. The easiest way to think about this is that it's the total all-in price tag to produce 1 ounce of metal. It's not just the digging, it's everything. And here are those all-important numbers. For 2026, they're expecting their silver costs to be between about $16 and $18 an ounce. For gold, between $1,700 and $1,850. Why does this matter so much? Because the bigger the gap between these costs and the market price, the more money they make on every single ounce they sell. So they've had a great year, they've got a ton of cash, they've got strong production. What's the plan? What are they going to do with all that money? Well, Pan American's answer is simple. Put it to work. And they are putting a lot of it to work. We're talking about a huge investment, somewhere between $515 and $550 million in capital spending for 2026. This is them really doubling down and betting big on future growth. And here's kind of how that $500 million pie gets sliced up. A big chunk, that sustaining capital, is just to keep the lights on and the current mines running smoothly. But that other piece, project capital, well, that's the exciting part. That's the money for building the future. So what does building the future actually look like? It means pouring money into some massive projects, like the La Colorada Skarn deposit. It means making their existing mines, like Jacobina, even more efficient. And look at this last one, drilling 600,000 meters. That is a ton of exploration. They are on a massive treasure hunt for the next big discovery.
All right, so let's zoom out for a second. We've looked at the performance, the forecast, the costs, the investments. What does it all add up to? What's the big picture here?
When you boil it all down, the strategy is actually pretty simple and really smart. They took the incredible success and all that cash they made in 2025 and are now using it as fuel to pour into these huge growth projects for 2026 and beyond. It's a classic case of using your strength to get even stronger. And that really leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? They've got the track record, they've got the cash, and they've got a clear plan. But in a metals market that can change on a dime, will this big, bold growth strategy pay off and really lock in their spot at the top? I guess that's what we're all going to be watching.